I think we can all agree that at some point in our Pokemon careers, we've had to use some kind of guide or walkthrough. You know, those things that tell you exactly where to go and contain all the info you could ever need. But have you ever wondered what they were like when Pokemon was just starting out? I mean, Prima's official strategy guide for Pokemon Red and Blue is pretty solid, while the Red and Blue Trainer's Guide literally looks like it was just dug up after being underground for 2,000 years. However, we're looking at something a little different today. The Pokemon Trainer's Survival Guide, which was written by Mark McDonald and published in 1998 by Sandwich Islands Publishing. Great name, by the way. This 146-page long walkthrough consists of a ton of information about Pokemon Red and Blue, as well as a little bit about the Japanese versions too. And after just seeing the cover, I thought it'd be fun to make a video highlighting this wacky book. So make sure to hit that sub button as it really does help out the channel, and without further ado, let's see if one of Pokemon's strangest guides can help me become the champion in the Generation 1 games. Now, I'm sure you could already tell, but the cover of this guide is all over the place. You've got some random trainer on the left, a very off-brand Charizard, and I couldn't even tell you what the two creatures on the ground are. But in reality, by checking out one of the first pages, you'll find out that it was designed by a college student who was actually just trying to make their own monsters and not represent any of Nintendo's. Anyways, it's worth mentioning that Mark did make an updated version that included stuff about Pokemon Yellow, and there is indeed a solid looking Charizard on that cover. Also, this author wrote a guide for Final Fantasy VII, so that's kinda neat. Personally though, I find it funny that this thing's called a survival guide, because I feel like that makes Pokemon sound way more serious than it really is. Speaking of the first few pages, they do a pretty good job at giving you an overview of Pokemon's early history. It touches on all the original titles, hints at Pokemon Gold and Silver, and even has a page on Pokemon Stadium where it misspells Mew's name with a Y and U as opposed to E and W. Yeah, there's a plethora of mistakes in this handbook, so I'm not going to point out every single one, but I'll definitely make note of the funnier typos. From there, the guide calls you Babe, describes trait evolutions, hidden machines, and references the Monster Index, which takes up most of the second half of the book. Despite the interesting name, the Monster Index does a pretty nice job of listing out all the original Gen 1 Mons. Not only is it organized alphabetically, but it even shows each Pokemon's level up moves, TM and HM compatibility, and their 3D model. Besides Amistar's, because apparently it was camera shy. By the way, if you're curious as to what that third cart box means, apparently the author was referencing the Japanese version of Pokemon Blue. Beyond that, the final notable page features the so-called best 3 of each type. Now, I'm no Pokemon VGC expert or anything, so y'all will have to let me know in the comments if Mr. McDonald over here got these rankings correct. Also, the fighting type section is a mess. I mean, come on, Machamp and Hitmonchan? Like, what? That's about it though, aside from the walkthrough section, which I'm gonna try to follow as if I've never played Pokemon before, in order to find out how good of a guide this book is. So, after naming our rival John, since that's the other random default option, we were told to explore Pallet Town and meet Professor Oak, who will give us one of the 3 starter Pokemon. I chose Charmander, and before I knew it, our rival challenged us to a battle. Fortunately, the walkthrough said it didn't matter if we won or lost, as we'd be quote-unquote whooping his butt all over the place later on in the game. Big pause on that, dude, what? It then said to speak with everyone on Route 1, resulting in us receiving a potion. And I gotta say, the author did a good job listing out the wild mons found in each area. Although it still calls them monsters, it shows their level range and probability of being encountered. After delivering the parcel to Oak, we were recommended to buy 5 Pokeballs, along with some antidotes before moving north. It does display the 2 items you can locate on Route 2, but they're both blocked by cut trees, so that can be a bit misleading. Either way, the guide specifically said to not forget to catch a Pikachu in the Viridian Forest, so I did that before arriving in Pewter City. The book really only highlights the gym here and even says to go back and do some training. Upon doing so, it still wasn't easy thanks to my disadvantaged team, but Charmander managed to get by. At least Mr. McDonald was smart enough to tell us to skip out on the Magikarp being sold in the Pokemon Center on Route 3. Shifting to Mount Moon, we were told to stick Pikachu in the front of our party due to all the Zubats, as the electric shock should be able to OHKO them. I did find it interesting though that there was no mention of Team Rocket whatsoever. After breezing through Route 4, the walkthrough briefly talks about the bike shop and the house to the left of the Pokemon Center, as it says you can trade for a Spectre. Now in the Japanese version of Pokemon Blue, you do get a Haunter here, so I assume that's where the confusion stems from when referring to Jinx, which is the traded mon in the English releases. Nonetheless, it was time for the second gym, and in this section the walkthrough called Pikachu the star of the game. Look, I get it, it's the mascot and Pikachu easily handled Staryu and Starmie, but the favoritism is going crazy right now. The routes north of Cerulean were relatively straightforward, so I took care of the rival and caught an Oddish along the way, as I felt like a grass type would make a good addition to the squad. The guide quickly touched on the daycare on Route 5, but besides that, it was time to enter Vermilion, with 2 L's according to the guide. It shows another trade that you can do with the girl that'll give you a Farfetch'd for Spearow, and the author calls her a sucker. That makes it sound like we're scamming the other person, but honestly, an eventual Fearow is better than a Farfetch'd in my opinion, so really I think we're the ones losing here. Anyways, it was emphasized to explore the entire SSN, including the easy fight against John. Afterwards, Lieutenant Surge wasn't much of a threat, so the Thunder Badge was ours. I'd like to add that while doing the puzzle, both switches were inside the same trash can. I didn't even know that could happen. Trekking along, the walkthrough proceeded to cover Route 11 and Diglett's Cave, which I'm surprised it didn't do before the third gym, as the Diglett and Doug trio around here can be really beneficial. It then backtracks to Route 2 so you can grab HMO5 Flash, as you should have 10 Pokemon by now. Yo Mark, I'm sorry man, I only got 5. Anyways, the book used a weird route to get back to Cerulean, as it had to stop by Viridian City for the Dream Eater TM and Pewter City for the Old Amber, before telling us to loop back around through Mount Moon. The walkthrough didn't talk about routes 9 through 10 a whole lot, so it was on to Lavender Town. And Mr. McDonald over here forgot to capitalize the G and B in Great Balls, so it really does sound like he made a ball joke in this sentence. In all seriousness, we were told to not bother with the Pokemon Tower, and instead make our way to Celadon. The first task here was to pick up the Eevee, who is supposedly one of the best mons in the game, so I gotta immediately throw it on my team, right? The other 2 points of interest were the department store, where I stocked up on lemonades as they apparently are a great deal, and the game corner. To my surprise, the guy noted that some of the slot machines are rumored to be luckier than others, which I wasn't expecting to be known around the time these games first dropped. Below the building lied Team Rocket's hideout, which was accompanied by a nice map, so we reached the Sylph Scope in no time. The last thing to do around these parts was scorch Erica's grass Pokemon for the 4th gym badge. And this is where the walkthrough took a different turn, as typically I'd go to the Pokemon Tower and then head straight to Fuchsia, but it actually had us stop by Saffron first. In the dojo, I learned that you only have to battle one of the black belts before taking on the boss, as long as you approach the 4th guy from the right, so that's kinda cool. Also, the copycat girl caught a stray from Mr. McDonald as he called her freaky. Anyways, now it was time to re-enter Lavender Town and give John another sound beating. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it seems like Mark is just out to get the rival. The guide then had us leave south towards Route 12 and make sure that we didn't battle the Snorlax on Route 16 before obtaining Ultra Balls. I mean, you could just take the faster path by zooming through the cycling road, buying some Ultra Balls in Fuchsia, and then facing the Snorlax here on Route 12, but okay. There wasn't much about routes 13 through 15, so in Fuchsia City I discovered a new Pokemon in the Safari Zone known as Executee, before challenging Koga for a simple win. From there, we looped back around through the cycling road, where the guide mistakenly said you need a Slowpoke for this trade on Route 18, when in reality it's a Slowbro. But instead of finishing up Saffron City, we sidetracked to the power plant, where I just knocked out Zapdos. But maybe I should have caught it, because the book says it makes Pikachu look like a 9-volt battery. Hey, don't roast my team members like that. Anyways, now we were good to head inside the Silphco, which had a pretty solid map of how to get through it, and knock out the rival yet again. And no crazy description of this fight, unfortunately, so I just brute forced my way through Sabrina's squad for badge number 6. The home stretch included traveling to Cinnabar through the Seafoam Islands, where the walkthrough said there were no items, but there's actually a few hidden ones. Not a big deal though, as we were told to revive our fossils and locate the secret key in the Pokemon Mansion, which was accompanied by another helpful map. Blaine thought using super potions on his fully healed mons would help him against Vaporeon, but you know, that didn't work, so we surfed north to say hello to Dr. Oak. Yeah, apparently he has that title in the Japanese versions, which is probably why the author wrote it like that, but I swear it sounds so cursed. As for the Giovanni and second to last rival fight, there wasn't too much info about them, so we trudged along through Victory Road. And this is a good time to mention that I feel like one of the best parts about the book is the comprehensive maps that go along with each dungeon. They make it really easy to traverse all of them. Lo and behold though, we were packing our bag with healing items at the Pokemon League and preparing for the Elite Four. Now, as with most of the major battles in the game, the walkthrough didn't really break down any of the Elite Four's teams, and I'd say that's its biggest drawback. You never get told what mons match up the best or what strategy is the most effective. This trend continues with the champion, who starts with Pidgeot, or Pidgeot as the walkthrough puts it, but none of his Pokemon put us in any real danger. Therefore, we have become the ultimate monster trainer. However, you already know Mr. McDonald didn't leave out the Cerulean Cave, as that punk was now nowhere to be seen, so we could head inside. A cool fact about this book is that every map in it is actually from the Japanese versions of Pokemon Red and Green, minus the Cerulean Cave, since there is a slight difference between the English and Japanese copies, hence why Mark drew his own map here. Anyways, he recommends using your Master Ball on the Mewtwo, and with the legendary Pokemon caught, the world is our cloister, meaning this entertaining journey has come to a close. Well, I gotta say, it was nice to replay the original titles in a more refreshed way by acting like I've never played them before. As I said, the most prominent flaw in this survival guide was the lack of analysis for the rival fights, gym leader battles, etc. Then again, this is just Generation 1, so I'm sure anyone could eventually figure out how to get past all the tough battles. Other than that, there was a fair share of misspellings and typos, but that's really nothing major. I enjoyed the route that the guide took me through, as it's one that I've never traveled along before, and the dialogue from Mark was pretty funny, so that's a plus. Overall, I deem this Pokemon Trainer Survival Guide to be a solid walkthrough that anyone could use to conquer Pokemon Red and Blue. Anyways, if you want to support the channel further, consider becoming a member, as you get access to some cool perks like videos early and receiving a shout out on the outro screen. For now though, have a great rest of your day, and until next time, deuces.